Ziva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. All right, let's see who's in. Good streaming status. All right. Oh, I made the writing really tiny. Above and Beyond Vapor was first. Freeman's Cryptoverse, Emily Joy Eckert, Kyokuk Monty, The House of 10 Genres. Hi from Denver, Colorado. Welcome. Hopefully you're not too freezing over there. Quick question, Tweedledee and Dum from Alice in Wonderland. For me, it was Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Kyokuk Monty. All right, let's see. Shari D, Helen Skygazer, The House of 10 Genres. Again, I already had that one. Autumn Nichols. See what you guys are all talking about. Ghosty333. Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so Helen Skygazer is Crazy World of Normal Helen. Change the name. KSP Crafter, Data Junkie, Mr. Medaza, Christina Gerald, Silver E55, Angela Ritter, lots of people. Okay, so first thing I want to mention is anybody who is in the San Diego area, I'm planning a little meetup thing at a restaurant this Saturday at 1 p.m. It's going to be near Escondido, California. We haven't picked out the exact place, but a lot of times it'll just be some like IHOP or Coco's or something like that. We usually just pick some kind of bland place. There's 3 other people already coming. The 3 that are coming besides myself, we've met before. So somebody's in town right now. So that's one of the reasons, kind of a last minute thing. So if you are interested in going, then email me at onceuponatimeline@yahoo.com. You can find it in the About section, right? Where is it? About. If you go onto my channel and you click on About, it'll bring you to description and down here details. And you'll click on this and then it'll expose the email. Now, I hardly ever look at that email. I'm terrible, so I apologize in advance. But once in a blue moon, I go there and finally check all the ancient messages. But this time, since I know that we're having a meetup, I will check it in a timely fashion and let you know exactly where we will be going at 1 if you wish to come. So anyways, everybody's welcome as long as you are a believer in the Mandela Effect, that you really see things changing. We're not going to have skeptics there, no debunkers. You have to be able to get along with other, accept that other people see Emmys, you might not, that kind of thing. So far, we haven't had any problems like that, but I just wanted to throw it out there. Okay, so hopefully I look extra bright. Yeah, I'm kind of like not as sleepy as normal today, which is nice. All right, so let's talk about this one. All right, there's a whole bunch of different ones. That was okay. This one is from Bob Robertson, and this is an interesting one. How many of you knew that the first moon landing, for me, there was only 1 moon landing, but there are 6 moon landings now where they were manned landings. For anybody who's a little behind on the Mandela 8 ball on that one, there are 6 manned moon landings now. For me, there was only this first one. Now, apparently, on this first one, Richard Nixon, the president of the United States at that time, actually called Buzz Aldrin and talked to him on the phone. Somehow they patched it through, and so Nixon was able to talk directly with the astronauts. So that's pretty weird. I've never had that in my old timeline. You actually can see him here yapping on the phone, the split screen from 1969, I believe it was. Apollo 11 astronauts talk with Richard Nixon from the surface of the moon. This is from the AT&T archives. I'm going to play just a little clip of it here.
be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House.
No, I can't actually
I just
hear
can't
it.
tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure that they too join with Americans in recognizing what an American...
Anyway, and then after a bit, the astronauts do talk a little bit back. You can hear the whole thing over here. Apollo space program. Apollo 11 astronauts talk with Richard Nixon from the surface of the moon. AT&T archives. That's on YouTube, so you can listen to the whole thing. Pretty weird. I just don't think that really happened. It actually just looks really weird seeing him on the phone here, and they were able to patch it through. I suspect that this might be a little bit of the tech before its time kind of a scenario here. I mean, I can't swear that this wasn't possible, but it doesn't look right. I remember learning about the more moon landings, but only within the last few years. That extra moon landings, I found out about it almost 3 years ago when I first learned of the ME. That was already an ME. So not sure exactly when it changed, though. I think maybe a few years before that is probably when it changed. Fashion, when in fact his eyes were blue, not a Mandela effect. No, that's a Mandela effect. His eyes were not blue. I totally disagree with you there. And how would you even know? So everybody learned wrong in all the schools, and how could you know that that's not a Mandela effect? And how could you know that everybody just learned wrong? So no, I don't agree with you on that one. Fascist goy. Yeah, and Hitler's mustache changed a lot too. It used to be thinner and longer, and then it just and more trimmed. It's been like, it looks like a postage stamp now. It's weird, and it's furry. Hitler absolutely had brown eyes. I remember thinking what a hypocrite he was. Yeah, that's how all the teachers taught, that he had brown eyes. No, it was documented by everyone that saw Hitler. He had blue eyes. In fact, they did a restoration on him and his eye. In this timeline, yes, but not in the old timeline. The Mandela effect is retroactive. That means that the past is going to also change. So you can't look at old records and debunk a Mandela effect, because the past also changes. That's the nature of the Mandela effect. It only exists in memory, and sometimes we can find residue, but you're not going to find official records. In most cases, you will not find official records to support any Mandela effects. They always support the current timeline. That's the nature of the ME. Fascist Goy, I don't know if you are just here to debunk, but you got to have, if you're going to be on my channel, you're going to have to accept that different people see different MEs. You can't look at the past to judge Mandela effects. I mean, that's just basic. Did you know that one sector of Chernobyl has been used until 2000? Oh, that's interesting. No. They shut Chernobyl down. That's interesting. All right, let's look at that one. Chernobyl. Did you say till 2000 or something? Three reactors operating in the wake of that. How could you even go there and operate them? I mean, the whole area was just quarantined. Everybody was taken out of there. At least in my timeline. So what, they all stayed here? I mean, the whole area is going to be radioactive. But of course, I've covered some of this stuff before, and radioactivity doesn't seem to last as long nor be as dangerous here as it did in my old timeline. But that wasn't the end of Chernobyl's story. All right, so they kept 3 reactors operating. At the time of the incidents, the 5th and 6th reactors were under construction, but units 1, 2, and 3 kept producing power. The troubles continued as well. Unit 2 shut down in 1991 after being damaged by a fire. You know, that should be big news if they kept 3 of the units running and then there was a fire at the second unit after the first huge blow up. I don't think so. International negotiations finally shut down the plant for good. That does not sound right. I mean, there would have been a huge outcry, and especially after that second fire. That's pretty weird. So basically for Chernobyl, last I checked, I mean, these things are often changing, but animals are existing just fine, and there's slight amount of mutation, but you know, it seems like they're kind of spinning the mutation as interesting new colorations and stuff like that now too. So, and I've covered in the past that they were doing research showing a slight amount of radiation was actually good for you, and people living a certain distance from Nagasaki were actually living longer. If you were too close to the explosion, then you would lose lifespan. But if you were a certain distance off, you would actually gain lifespan from compared to the rest of the population. So that's really weird, but there's just been a lot of stuff like that popping up. Ghosty 333 was closed, period. Yeah, I don't get how you can have this 19-mile exclusion zone and then still be running the reactors. I mean, you're going to have humans in there. How are they going to... I mean, are they telling me that the other reactors were outside the 19-mile zone? Because that doesn't seem likely. If they're inside the zone, then how are they operating the plant? That's just weird. Animals were not there before. Yeah, it was just a death zone. Now they just have slight mutations. All right, so let's look at animals around Chernobyl. And like Nagasaki, all the Japanese bombing areas are now considered safe to live in and all built back up. So in my old timeline, those areas are going to be irradiated for, tens of thousands of years, and no one's going to be able to live there, and blah, blah, blah. How radiation is affecting wildlife 30 years after Chernobyl. Animals ruled Chernobyl 3 decades after a nuclear disaster. It's not certain how radiation is affecting wildlife, but it's clear that animals abound. Okay, so yeah, that's what I've been hearing lately, last few months. Lots of animals. There's been a lot of this stuff on TV too. It looked totally normal. It just all the animals are they look totally normal. There was a little bit of talk about, oh hey, look, this this little insect has a different coloration pattern, and there's more variation in the colorations. So it's almost like Chernobyl's just become an excuse for more Mandela effects or something now. The beaver population is growing. Blah, blah, blah. Found no evidence to suggest that their distributions were suppressed in highly contaminated areas within the Chernobyl exclusion zone. All right, so they're actually doing fine. All right, so we got that one. This one's a personal one. Just kind of another little advertising one. But I don't know if you guys remember all those Marlboro cigarette ads. And this one I just noticed because I was joking today about flavor country. And interestingly enough, Urban Dictionary remembers how I remember it. A flavor country, a smoker's destination, from an old Marlboro ad, sometimes used sarcastically. So what I remember is this old Marlboro ad. They would say, "Welcome to Flavor Country," and it was, you know, where people smoke Marlboros. Basically, it was supposed to be the flavorful cigarette. So there's a, and I also I do remember seeing this on The Simpsons, where not The Simpsons, but what was that cartoon? Homer. Yeah, it's on The Simpsons. Okay. And Homer says it's flavor country. So anyways, again, from the old Marlboro ad campaign, I'm headed to flavor country. All right, but interestingly, I looked and looked for this commercial, and I can't swear this is a Mandela effect, but I really cannot find any commercial that mentions flavor country. Now, they do say, "Come to where the flavor is, Marlboro country." Now, I do remember them saying Marlboro country, but I also remember flavor country, and I cannot find it. It all just says where the flavor is, Marlboro country. Weirdly enough. So apparently there's this Urban Dictionary about flavor country, but from what I can tell, Marlboro never said flavor country in this timeline. It was always Marlboro country. So anyways, just kind of a small one, but it, like many Emmys, it's bugging me. All right. So what is this weird image here? The thumbnail. What is that eyeball thing? What is on that eye? It looks like a disgusting monster, centipede monster on the eye. Okay, you would think maybe that's a little unusual, right? This particular eye is not a human eye. I think it was a dog eye. But they also have these on human eyes. And it's called persistent pupillary membrane. So supposedly the story now is that as the human lens is developing in the womb, it has a blood supply, and that's a membrane that supplies the lens as it's growing, I guess. And if the membrane does not completely disintegrate, then you have persistent pupillary membrane. Now, there's a number of things to notice. One is that this one here and this one are both human eyes. It's either side of the same kid's eye, if I remember correctly. They all look really different. Usually when you have problems like that, there's more similarity, but they each one, see, this one looks like a web. Some of them look like spiders. Look at that one. What is that? Pre-operative and post-operative. Just, they're creepy. That one looks totally different. This one here, similar to the one on the front. Look at this one. This one looks like a spider on there or something. This dog eye one, that looks super creepy. Super creepy. There's the one. I think that was the dog eye one also. I don't know if dogs have extra creepy ones, but But I mean, like, this is obviously a human one. It looks like he has a giant multi-legged tick on top of his eye. And then why, if it's persisting, why does it like get a big blob right in the middle so it blocks vision? There's another one. Creepy. Now, we've been seeing a lot of weird shaped eyes lately. So this is, look at that dog. I just can't get over. If you had that on your dog, wouldn't you just flip out? All right, so how common are these? Ooh, look at that one. I don't know. I guess I just have morbid curiosity. All right, so how common are these? Now, here's a trip. These are super common. Weirdly, there's hardly any on the wiki for this, but apparently persistent pupillary membranes now listen to this sentence, are a common congenital anomaly. How can it be a common but then be an anomaly? Seen in 95% of neonates. All right, so how can it be an anomaly when 95% of neonates have it? You can't have an anomaly in 95% of neonates. The anomaly would be the 5% that don't have it. So this whole sentence is just creepy. So now I couldn't really find any info on what percentage of newborns have it. This whole thing is kind of weird. I had a article saved and then it's just gone. I can't find that article anymore. This is the closest one I could find. A congenital ocular anomaly seen in 95% of neonates. 20% of the adult population. That was not there yesterday. This is the new article, so I just found this like an hour ago. 20% of the adult population has this persistent pupillary membrane. Now, obviously, some of them are not going to be as extreme as that dog one, but they're saying if the strands are small, then they don't really interfere with vision that much, and the brain will block out perception of them. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but in the back of your eye, and this has always been the case, even my old timeline, the back of your eye, there's a little hole in the back where the optic nerve goes through and into your brain. And that part of the retina does not have any visual acuity at all. It's not able, there's no rods or cones or anything because it's a hole for the nerve. And so in everybody's vision, there's one little area where you actually can't see anything. There should be like a black spot there. But the brain, like I call it paving over, the brain hides that from you. So you think you're seeing stuff. And there's things online you can look up and you can expose that dot and see it sort of. But basically that same system where the brain hides it from you apparently also happens if you have this persistent pupillary membrane, is that spot is always there, blocked in your vision, and your brain hides it from you. So you don't notice it's there because it's completely like your own brain won't let you see it, basically. This is interesting. 20% of the population. I was looking for this yesterday, and I couldn't find what percentage of the population. They did have some percentage for newborns. And I swear it was 95% of newborns at the time. But anyways, so they're saying that most babies are born with this, and then it slowly disappears over the course of the next few months or something. So really weird. Really weird. Just another excuse to have creepy eyes. So they're saying if the membrane is too extreme, like here, it's really blocking vision, then there's a couple different things they can do. They can just do surgery and remove them, because if you can't see, then your visual cortex will not develop properly, and your visual processing won't develop properly. So they have to get those removed pretty quickly if they are extreme like that. Dense pupillary membrane in the right eye. Another thing is if they're not real bad, they actually they give atropine in the eye, and that causes dilation. And so their goal is to dilate and kind of stretch it and hopefully cause the membrane to break down. So that's interesting because atropine, that's what's in the datura plant from Carlos Castaneda's famous book. So basically it's a drug that you can get naturally, but it causes, like many drugs, it causes the eye to dilate. So there's another one. See how different they look? Each one looks just so different too, which kind of trips me out. So that's them doing. This is a lot longer article than the first one I found. So the first one I found, it may still exist but require payment, because I thought I found it, but now you can't just look at it. All right, anyway, really weird stuff. Okay, see what you guys are. So anyway, 20% of the population has that now. Alien world. Yeah. Yep. Has anybody seen the plain of jars in Laos? All right. The Rainbow Mountain in Peru is an interesting one. That one was already making the rounds like 3 years ago and before. So the Rainbow Mountain, let me do the plain of jars first. Plain of, because I don't know that one. Oops, wait. I don't want to ruin my old... Wait. Yep. I want to start a new location for that. The plain of jar. What the heck? Oh, that's weird. I have not seen that. I'm going to put that one down because I want to make sure I get that. Good find. All right. Plain of jars. Megalithic archaeological landscape in Laos consists of thousands of stone jars scattered around the upland valleys and lower foothills of the central plain of the Xiangquang Plateau. The jars are mostly arranged in clusters, ranging in number from 1 to several hundred. What a trip. No, I absolutely have not seen that. Look at that. Megalithic, is it? Very interesting. Ooh, some of them have lids. Oh, weird. Okay, fairly big, but not Giganosaurus. Check that out. Mysterious plain of jars. Let's see what the... Yeah, that's totally new for me. I have not seen that before. Good find. Ghosty 333. Good find, Ghosty. French researcher concluded in 1930 that the jars were associated with prehistoric burial practices. Excavation has supported this interpretation with the discovery of human remains, burial goods, and ceramics around the jars. Dated to the Iron Age, 500 BC to AD 500, is one of the most... so it's right around the time of Jesus. It's one of the most important prehistoric sites in Southeast Asia. I've never heard of that. Look at that. Yeah, that's got to be pretty new. Look at that. That's neat. That's kind of a neat one. It's not like the same old thing. Wow. Good job. Okay. So, all right. This one again, this one is kind of inspired by Bob Robertson. He had been going back and looking at some, we talked about kind of the concept of the mud floods last time. And one thing that somebody brought up was that low windows right at the top of a basement are said to be useful for dropping, like getting coal in there and stuff. You could open the window and just drop coal in. And, in the old days, cold was used for heating, and it was pretty dirty, so you might not want to clamber up and down stairs with it through the house, that kind of. So it makes sense. But the issue is that the mud flood houses we were looking at, the windows also, no, they're not just at the current ground level, but they drop really low under the soil. So there would be no reason to do that. For those, the exterior soil has to have risen since it was built, because you would never build windows underground to look at dirt. If they just built them right on the edge, it would make sense. But no, a lot of them go down into the soil. And sometimes you have to actually go and look at the location to see if the original windows were that deep, because they'll remodel them and they'll break up the bottom part and they'll just have little grates at the current soil level. So, okay. So anyways, the flooding, this is interesting. I just ran into this like yesterday because I was looking through Bob Bobertson's stuff, and he had some old flood info. But then I found this one, and this is a much bigger thing, flood info. Remembering the Great Flood that put Northern California under 30 feet of water. The flood created a lake down the center of the state that was 300 miles long and 20 miles wide. Okay, I actually come from Northern California, and you can bet your butt that if I ever heard of this, I would not forget, because then it happened once, it could happen again. And I'm a little bit paranoid in that department. So no, this was not in my old timeline, not in a gajillion and 11 years. So here's old drawings of different areas of Northern California. If you look at Northern California, it will show a large valley right down the middle of it. I'm really suspicious about that too. I don't think that the geography has shifted quite a bit in California. I've covered that before. I don't think there was a valley down the middle of it before. There was none more powerful or destructive as the Great Flood of 1862, the largest ever recorded in Oregon, Nevada, and California's history. Occurred from December of 1861 until January of 1862. So apparently it was a series of storms. Here are some actual, supposedly actual photos, drawings. Apparently Sacramento was basically just devastated, and they moved the capital supposedly to San Francisco for a while because Sacramento was underwater. They're talking about 30 feet high floods in places. I don't see how the buildings would still even be there after that. All right, so there's a map of the flooding. And just to give you an idea, this is a map of California now. So this is the natural waterways now. This is what it supposedly looked like after the flood. The lighter blue is shallower, and the deeper blue is like 10 to 20 feet. And apparently it even reached 30 feet in places. So this is a massive flooding here. And I don't think it's in my old timeline. Now, weirdly, just today, just a couple days after I ran into this, they were talking about this same concept on Yahoo, hypothetical arc storm flood areas. Now, I've never heard this term before, but I looked it up earlier today when I saw it on Yahoo, and it stands for Atmospheric River 1000 storm. Now, they didn't really explain the 1000 because they were saying that this level of storm should happen every 6,000 years. So I don't know why they would say it's AR 1000. The article did not explain why 1000 was chosen. But one thing I just wanted to mention, this atmospheric river thing. I first heard of that just a few years ago, and it was used for just one region. I believe it was in Africa, where there was a highly densely accumulated region of water transport up in the atmosphere. And so they just said this one area is very unusual as it has this atmospheric river. But this concept just this last year is spreading everywhere. And So we've been getting a ton of rain here this year, and they're calling it an atmospheric river again now. This is the first time I've heard it for California as being an atmospheric river. So pretty much atmospheric river is the new term. It's everywhere, and it's whenever there's a lot of rain, you're going to hear that word now. But it's come out of the woodwork for me now. I looked up the history. Supposedly the word is from the early 90s, but I call baloney now. It is, and if you look at the satellite, the way those clouds are all kind of tight, I would say that is not how the clouds were for me. And this is something I've been meaning to talk about the last few months. And some of this, of course, can be blamed on just general improvements, but it used to be that they would say it's going to rain in the morning, but now they say it's going to rain at 10 a.m. And when you go out there, it generally does start raining right at 10 a.m. But here's what's different for me now is it used to be the clouds would kind of form over you. They would slowly would be really foggy, and it would be like hours, and then somewhere along that time rain would come down, and that's why they didn't really know exactly when, because it was just there was no real clear demarcation about when the storm had arrived. Now what I've been seeing this year very much is that I'll go out there, and this happens a lot when we're playing sports because we kind of try to schedule it in before the rain. We'll be out there playing, and the sky will be blue, and then a giant black cloud will come over, and then it'll rain like right after that. So it's like the edges of the storm are really well defined now, and it comes over like in a big clump, and then it just rains immediately. It's just a lot more cohesive than it used to be. And sometimes there'll just be like a big wind, and then the storm, boom, it's right there. It's all very predictable now compared to the way it used to be. So anyways, that's a whole bunch of stuff for me. There's the new one. Let me see what you guys are talking about. How is the American flag? Let's check it out. See if it's still white on the bottom of the blue. I haven't seen a change in that in a little bit. Yeah, still the same for me. Still the same as last time. I mean, that has flipped a few times, but it's been stable for a while. Schumann residence has been nuts. My old timeline, I don't think we really had a Schumann residence like 10 years ago. And about 6 years ago, they started saying that, the Earth has a resonance. It's little known. And now it's like this huge thing, and everybody studies it. Skara Brae in Scotland, just like the Flintstones. Really? Skara Brae. Let's go look at that. Skara Brae in Scotland. Oh, interesting. Another Neolithic settlement, the Bay of Scrail on the west coast of mainland, the largest island in the Orkney archipelago of Scotland. And maybe you locals can tell me if that archipelago was always there. It's a very popular creation of islands lately, but I don't know that region that well. 8 clustered houses occupied 2500 BC. That is early. Wow, check it out. Okay, so everything's stone. There's stone, interesting. Cupboards, right on the water like that. Surprising that it's in that good a condition. So what's extra interesting about this one is just it's so old. Skara Brae Orkney. This artifact covered with 500 pyramid-shaped knobs. Oh. See if you can see it better. Nope, that's not helping any. Huh. All right, I'm going to write that one down too. Skara Brae. Another good find. Lots of good stuff today. All right. Oh, okay. This one's an extra weird one for me. So, what I remember where the bone plates on the skull go together, I remember those being called cranial fissures. But in this timeline, and I think it switched maybe like 6 months ago, I thought it was just another name for cranial fissures. They were calling them cranial sutures. But I've since realized that the word cranial fissures is gone now. There are no... The only cranial fissures are actual holes that go down into the skull, but the lines along the skull where the plates go together are now called cranial sutures, and there is no evidence of the old pronunciation at all. And I am 100% sure that those were fissures. In fact, the first time I saw sutures, I was like, that's weird. And I've been watching the skull for a few years now, and it was fissures just like 2-3 years ago. So, skull bones are connected by fibrous joints. So, this is not bone anymore. It's fibrous joints called sutures. In fetal skulls, the sutures are wide to allow slight movement during birth. They later become rigid. Synarthroidal. Okay, so in my old timeline, the bones connected, and the fissures were just kind of like, first of all, they weren't so zigzaggy as they are now. But so they would connect, and it was bones. It was where the bones connected. And over time, that fissure would sort of grow in, and so you couldn't see it anymore. And so that's how they would date skulls, because it would just kind of mold over time. But they were still just bone. They were not sutures, and they were not a fibrous material. So now they're this fibrous material. They are not actually bone anymore for the most part of your life. Now, this wiki is interesting because I was just checking it yesterday, and it has changed since yesterday. Now, I know wikis change, but it was just interesting because what it said yesterday, and I actually wrote down a bunch of these sentences, this part was the same. A tiny amount of movement is permitted at sutures, which contributes to the compliance and elasticity of the skull. All right. So it did say that about the tiny amount of movement permitted. And I actually was kind of laughing because it's such a weird word, amount of movement permitted. You know, usually they'll say can happen or something, but permitted sounds like there's an authority that has agreed to it. So a tiny amount of movement. So what's weird though is up here, it said specifically that the fibrous joints are sutures and they are immovable. And immovable sutures are called synarthroidal because they are immovable. And it specifically said immovable. And so I was laughing because I'm like, aha, I caught the wiki. It says immovable up here, and then it says tiny amount of movement permitted here. Well, now I come back here and the whole sentences have changed. So now it's in fetal skulls, the sutures are wide to allow slight movement during birth, then later become rigid and synarthroidal. They weren't, this part about come later synarthroidal. And I actually had been looking all over the internet, and they all just said that the sutures are synarthroidal. Now they're saying they later become synarthroidal. So I thought I had caught the ME with totally conflicting info, but then I come a day later and boom, it's been fixed. So I think that's really suspicious. But anyway, so they're basically saying later they become synarthroidal. But over here it's still a little bit vague because it sounds like they might still be a little bit of movement even as you get older. It is normal now. So now this one's interesting because the fontanelle at the top of the head, that word I've just started hearing the last few years. They did kind of say that that kids had a soft spot at the top of their head. I do remember there being, but it wasn't like a big wide area. It was just kind of an area where the bones weren't really set fully. But it seems to me that this area is getting wider and wider now. I can't swear to it, but I can say for sure that two things I did not have, and one was that there was only one soft spot on the top of the head. Now, if you look up fontanelle, okay. An anatomical feature of the infant human skull comprising of any of the soft membrane gaps between the cranial bones. So this is the regular one that I remember at the top of the head. But apparently now there's an occipital fontanelle back here, and then there's two along the sides here. And all of those are soft spots. There's not just the one at the top anymore. And I have to say, the last few years, that infant skull just looks really weird to me. It looks like an alien skull to me. Okay, so now they're saying that basically what happens is that this is bone and this is like a fibrous membrane here. And then as the child grows, the fibrous membrane closes up and the skull takes over more of the space. But there's still a small fibrous membrane between all the plates. Let's see. I think they had the dates, different dates they close up, 2 to 3 months, 6 to 18 months, 10 to 24 months. So now they're saying not that these sutures, not that the bone molds over when you get old, but that when you do get really old, the sutures can ossify. They can turn to bone. And so that's what they're using for dating of skulls now, is if the fibrous material has turned to bone. Now, one thing that's weird is this is all fibrous material. You would think that the skull would just fall apart. And I just thought of that now, but I should look at the old, it just seems to me like old skulls, this is just, the fibers should not hold up, and so the skull should fall apart in pieces. There shouldn't be a whole skull. Now, my old timeline, there was just one solid skull, and then they would just say there was kind of a weak spot at the top for babies, but it was a whole skull. Now, the way they're talking, it's like the skull is many pieces held together by fibers until you get very old, and then some of those sutures ossify or turn to bone. For me, all the sutures were ossified at birth already. All right, so now let's talk about this fontanelle thing. Now, I just do not remember babies having this really large area on the top of the head that sinks in or puffs out or looks weird. And what's even weirder about this fontanelle thing, and look, you can see the lines of the skull in here. But what's really weird about this is apparently this fontanelle, it is not uncommon for that thing to pulse. If you look at this baby's head, it's going to pulse. And they said they don't even understand the pulsing. All right, so there's the kid's head, it's pulsing. So apparently parents freak out, they call the hospital, and they say, oh, nah, that's normal. They go back. All right. Here's another kid with his pulsy head. So there's the whole caved-in pulsing fontanelle. So they're saying that there's one on the back of the head and two on the sides. I'm just thinking that these are just getting bigger. So I don't know, maybe I'm behind the 8 ball on this, but 20 years ago that was not there. I'm just sorry, but no. There's no pulsing heads. That looks like the chat is not refreshing. They're saying it's not a heartbeat pulse. They're saying they think it's related to the heartbeat, but they're saying it's not a heartbeat pulse. See if the chat will come back up. Here we go. Imagine the nurse or doc putting fingers on the head. Yeah, you never see that. This is an interesting mix. Like half of you are like, oh yeah, I remember that. And the other half are like, ew, no, my kids never had that. Yeah, it's like 50-50. That baby looks dehydrated. They say if it's really dented in, it might be a sign of dehydration, but they don't really understand it that well. Found pics of my son in his first month holding his head up. For me, myself, he never did that. Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, babies can hold their head up after a month now, huh? My baby had really cute round skulls, no aliens. I've never been in a timeline where soy sauce is soya. Oh, yeah, you know, I've just been hearing that the last few years, soya sauce. Today, some people were freaking out because soya sauce changed to soy. Yeah, it could be different timelines. I don't know. Sometimes people will say an ME and I'm like, nah, and then I'll go look and there's really good residual for it. Really good residual. And then there'll even be sources saying like, oh, well, this is common misconception and stuff. I'm like, I've never heard that misconception. So when I see all these sources saying something's a common misconception, then I get really suspicious that it's an ME. Many more asteroids, yeah, many more shooting stars by far. And the colors, I've covered that one, but they have colors now. Not just white anymore. House of 10 Genres remembers fissures. Yep. The Rider White deck, the cards have changed. The Moon card in particular. I don't know the decks, sorry. That's really specialized knowledge, so I don't think you're going to find a lot of people who can really comment on that. New ridges on back of skull, yes. That's a little bit older ME, but that right on the back of the skull now, there's a big bump. Dark Wolf's Den remembers fissures. There's no more. I looked and looked. Now, remember when we were talking about all the new holes in the skull? They're starting to call those like fissures now. So now a fissure is like a hole. I don't know. Maybe they had to change it to sutures because basically now it's a fiber that kind of sutures the bone plates together. Anna Z remembers fissures. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I mean, I know that it was fissures for me, but sometimes I remember something and everybody else is like, nah. All right. All right, so I have a ghost memory of soya now that you say it. Yeah, I know I've seen that term before. And I remember thinking, soya, what the heck? Why are you saying it like that? Female elephants. Uh-oh. Now I'm afraid to look. Because you know it's probably some weird gender thing. I think okay, 3 interesting facts. See if it's on there. That female elephants have tusks. I've covered that one. The little tusk called tushes. That's new for me. I don't know if you're talking about that, but that one has been covered in the past. Those weird little tusks, and also female cows of the beef persuasion also now have horns. That did not used to be the case. The fin shark is supposed to be the second largest shark. The fin shark. The fin shark. Oh, no, I don't see a fin shark. What's the second largest shark? Basking shark. Basking shark is second largest. That's an Emmy. We didn't have those. Where's that weird like the Greenland shark? That one's really big too. That's an Emmy for me. The Greenland shark. That one, it lives like 500 years. The largest extant species of shark. Largest known lifespan of all vertebrate species. I mean, it's bigger than great whites. Great whites used to be the big shark, but now they're not that big a deal at all. Anyway, yeah, we talked about that one a while back, though. I don't know if I've really... Yeah, no, I've talked about it on here, too. I heard about the fin shark. Yeah, I don't think there's a fin shark now. There's shark fin soup, but I don't see a fin shark on Google. The fin shark. It doesn't sound familiar to me either. I don't know of a fin shark. Shark finning. Yep, no, I don't see it. Schädelspalten in German, meaning cranial fissure, crack, split. Yes, but see, it's not anymore because it's sutured together with these funky fibers, and it won't ossify until you're old, like 40s. You know, another thing I've been seeing is a lot of talk about the like things like how you hold your tongue and stuff like that over time, slowly changing your facial features. And if things are sutured instead of permanent, that would make it more possible. I think that those stories are still really in their infancy and, you know, non-mainstream and not trusted in this timeline, but I would keep an eye on that. Crazy with Disney's head, he got frozen. No other story. Now they don't know where the myth came from. I do remember something about Disney. I thought he was the first man to be cryogenically frozen, period. Disney. I'm sure I heard that. Disney was cryogenically frozen. Disney. No, I'm sure they said he was the first to be. That wasn't even that long ago. It was a 3-pack-a-day smoker. Oh, that's a big Emmy. Contrary to popular belief, Disney was cremated 2 days later, not frozen. No, 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 no. He was frozen. Oh, no, no. After decades of speculation, his family finally decided they were tired of the rumor mill. Oh, Disney was frozen. I'm going to have to put that one up. Who put that one up? Good find. Disney was frozen. That one's kind of a weird one because when I first heard about it, I was surprised I didn't know about it. I think that was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I think even like 2-3 years ago it was true. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. And it was totally a trip. And I totally looked into it to see if it was baloney. And it was completely accepted. They had all this information, what date, quotes from them, everything. And so now it's an old wives' tale again, huh? It's interesting. And he was the first one to be cryogenically frozen. Now I'm wondering if cremation goes back. When does cryogenics go back in time? Maybe it goes back to before he died. Okay, so he died in 1966. Let's see when cryogenics was formed. Because if he was going to be the first one in 1966, then what if it was developed earlier than 1966? Then he could not be the first one. Let's see. Cryogenics. Discovery. Yeah. Oh, do I see any dates anywhere? World War II. Based on this theory of cryogenic hardening, the commercial cryogenic processing industry was founded in 1966 by Ed Bush. All right, still 66. Cryotech, 1966. Huh. All right, well, the basic year still lines up. I don't know about the months and stuff. Disney passed away at the end of December 1960. The end of the year in 1966. And they don't give exact dates on here. They just say 1966. Maybe they got it done a little earlier, and so maybe Disney died too late. And I'm wondering. Anyway, interesting. Oh, I totally think that's an Emmy. I totally looked into that because I was so surprised the first time I heard it. That's interesting. They did a joke about it in Futurama about Disney. So it's just an old myth now. It's an old wives' tale. I looked up the fin shark and it's not there. Yeah, I can't find the fin shark either. It's only shark fin soup. All right, so that's interesting. So now they're just saying it's an old wives' tale. So they're saying, oh, everybody always said it, but it's just a fake rumor. But you know what? I really looked that up, and there was all this exact dates and all just, it was really specific. It shifted from whole body to just the head for me. It wouldn't surprise me. I do not remember it just being the head. In fact, when I was reading the head one, I'm like, no, it was whole body. So I'm pretty sure that that's a true memory, because if I just went along with what you said, then I wouldn't have just agreed. I would have agreed instead of like, nope, it's whole body for me. whole body. But, it's not like I check in on this every 2 weeks. So, I mean, it could have been for a while just the head for me also, but I just didn't check during that timeline. I mean, back then you just assume that whatever story you learned has not changed significantly. When truth becomes myth and myth becomes truth, you know that you live on mirror world or something. Yeah, I don't know. Dream world. Why would the cryolab lie in the TV documentary crew when they breeze through? Yes, there was photos and all kinds of stuff, interviews from people. I mean, I didn't really memorize the exact location, but I know that they said that he was the first one. Look up the neon green swell shark. All right, neon green swell shark. Okay, is that one that... All right, let me look up. Okay, biofluorescence. So last time I checked that guy, you had to have a special light in order to see that. It was not ordinary light. Now what does it say? So only like sharks could see it back then. Ugh. What the heck is biofluorescence anyway?
It's time for me to
that's
go.
a new word. That's not the word they were using.
Well, what if I
drove me home?
Organisms absorb light, transform it, and inject it as a different color.
Swell sharks are found from Monterey, California.
Biofluorescence and bioluminescence. Biofluorescence in the air is not a chemical reaction. It's a phenomenon in which organisms absorb blue light and emit it a different color, usually red, green, or orange. Until recently, it was thought that only certain marine organisms like squirrels and jellyfish. Okay, so that story has changed. I actually, interesting. So before, they were saying only sharks could see the weird colors because it was some kind of infrared thing or something like that. You had to have a certain kind of eyes. Now it looks like now uses moonlight. It looks like now other things could see it. So you had to have a special camera lens or you had to have shark eyes before. But scientists had discovered the shark actually glows bright green thanks to fluorescent proteins inside its skin. The wavelength of visible light that is least absorbed as it travels through water. This phenomenon called biofluorescence is thought to be a form of communication to other swell sharks that, unlike humans... Okay, so they're still saying only sharks can see it. Unlike humans, can see the extraordinary light display. Okay, so you can't see it unless you're a shark. Although I don't remember that term biofluorescence. I think that term is new. Had to use cameras with yellow filters which block out the natural blue light in the same way that sharks do. Okay, so the story is essentially the same except for that one word. I actually have been waiting to see if these things will become more glow in the dark. We've gotten so many bioluminescent creatures since then that I would not be at all surprised if these turned bioluminescent. But right now, they're still biofluorescent. Only deep-sea creatures were bioluminescent, now these. Okay, they're not, though. They're biofluorescent. However, there are a bunch of fungus, and there's glowworms, and a bunch of other creepy-crawly, yuck, icky things that are bioluminescent now. So even land-dwelling things. I wonder if there's any lizards, bioluminescent lizards. There wasn't last time I checked. Bioluminescent lizard. There was a lot of land bugs. The world's first glowing reptile. Bioluminescent animals include some species of squid, fireflies, and fungi. Ooh. I just knew it was going to be lizards because lizards are just so weird. I've gotten like a feel for the ME now. Although this is not the most useful article. Officially, however, there are no bioluminescent species among terrestrial vertebrates, but claims have been made that there may be, in fact, be a notable exception of the reptilian kind. Mid-1990s. Saw a faint light in a crevice beneath a ledge. He flashed his torch into the crevice and was most surprised to find a small lizard. He turned his head away, saw both flanks momentarily lighting up like portals on a ship. When he caught it, it lit up again, glowing brightly in his hand with a pale greenish hue. All right, so we've got reports of a bioluminescent lizard. All right, so then this thing was shipped off. So they caught it, collected 7 more individuals of the species, preserved them too. 1939, there was a paper. Only males can do the bioluminescence. No nerve endings to the portals. P. shrevi is no longer considered to be rare. Categorized as of least concern, which is a CITES designation that's like they're only a little bit endangered. Or they're no, least concern is not endangered. Not endangered. All right, so I think it, from what I'm trying to read this, but it sounds like we basically have this bioluminescent lizard now. All right, so now they're saying that later investigations yielded no light from the portals. Maybe the portals were highly reflective or phosphorescent. Huh. All right, so they're saying they kind of debunked it. All right, so this guy's calling for comprehensive field studies. So this one, I don't know, it might be in morphing stages. Huh. Top 10 creatures that glow in the dark. Let's check this out. Land snails, Antarctic krill, Millipedes. There's actually some creepy centipedes that are even supposed to be like around California that have bars of glow-in-the-dark ability. Crystal jelly, blue ocean glows. Those are dinoflagellates. Oops, that's it. Page 2. Try to see if there's anything interesting. Comb jellies, anglerfish. Oh yeah, I forgot about those. And those are not all deep sea anymore either. Glowworms, those are in caves. They're in air, not deep sea. Firefly squid. Okay, I knew about those. Fungi. This is a more recent one, all these fungi. But I'm not seeing anything super recent for the bioluminescent. No wonder the dolphins are casting themselves upon the shore. It is their apocalypse too. I suspect the animals are more flexible than us. They probably just roll with stuff a lot better than we do. Glowing dolphins. Glowing dolphins. They're probably going to say it's bioreflective or something. Let's see. What was that word? Biofluorescent? I bet you did not know that 80% of ocean species have the ability to produce light. 80%, huh? That's a lot. Glowing dolphins, no. But did you know that 80% of ocean species have the ability? You have to be on the boat or the beach at exactly the right time. The technology wasn't there. The light emitted by these creatures is meant for animal vision. Okay, so 80% of ocean creatures emit light now. Ah, that's a lot. Seeing dolphins swim in glow-in-the-dark waters. I mentioned before that the glow-in-the-dark water, there's a glow-in-the-dark water season here in California and Southern Cal now, and there never was that before. All right, so I don't see glowing dolphins. They're still saying no. Maybe there's some biofluorescent ones, but I would not be at all surprised if we get one. I don't think we have them yet, though. I think I got most of that. All right. Let's see what else we got here. I think I got most of them. Flavor country. Oh, I didn't get that one. Oh, yeah, I didn't hardly get... Okay, I got tons still. All right, this one is from Esmeralda Bauer, Bouwer, who is a commenter on the channel. So that I think we've even talked about this not long ago, but that third eye that some animals, they were saying they had a sensitive light spot. Now it's called the pineal eye, or sometimes the parietal eye. And then they're saying that it actually comes from the pineal gland, and some of them come from the parapineal gland. And they're saying that there were older extinct animals that had two of them, one from the pineal gland and one from the parapineal gland. And this is really weird because in my old timeline we had the pineal, and I don't even know how to pronounce it, but a pineal eye, the pineal gland, and they would call it the third eye region, but they meant it from a spiritual perspective. They didn't mean it that you actually had a freaking eye on your head. I mean, you didn't have a third eye. But the pineal gland, after all that yim yam about it being the third eye, is actually becoming a third freaking eye now. And some of these like creatures, it doesn't quite have a lens yet, but they're saying that in some of the fetal stages, it does have a lens. And so look at the one on here now. If you had a sensitive spot on your head, I mean, would you want to outline it in white so that all the predators would know how to nail you on the sensitive spot? But anyway, so this one, it looks just like an eye on this one. It does not have a lens, but it's becoming more and more eye-like is my point. And they've got this storyline with the pineal and the parapineal glands causing. I've never even heard of a parapineal gland. I was looking it up and I couldn't find a wiki for it or anything. Okay, so there's the spot. I've covered this a little bit before, but it looks like it's just getting more eye-like. So there it is, the pineal gland. I think is it pineal gland, on whatever the heck that is. So a whole bunch of animals have it now. Crocodiles, lizards, three-eyed lizards. See it. From what I can tell, none of them actually have a lens in adulthood, but they're working on it. Let's just say it's in progress. Snakes all have it. Snakes are the first one I remember having it, because they needed that heat sensing organ. It just sensed heat for me. Okay, now look, see, it's even in the skull. An extracranial third eye can be inferred from the presence of a parietal foramen between the parietal bones. Okay, so there's a hole now in the skull for this third eye. Foramen is the newish word for holes in the head, basically. So through these holes, these foramen supposedly travel nerve endings and stuff. So there's the one on this lizard. It's getting more and more eye-like. Presence in various animals found in Tuatara, most lizards, frogs, salamanders, bony fish, sharks, and lampreys. Absent in mammals, but was present in their closest extinct relatives, the therapsids. Also absent in turtles and archosaurs. Saniwa, an extinct varanid lizard, had two parietal eyes, one that developed from the pineal gland and the other from the parapineal gland. So the parietal is part of an epithalamus. That is not a word I've heard before, epithalamus, which can be divided into two parts. Epiphysis, the pineal organ or pineal gland, and the parietal organ, often called the parietal eye or the third eye if it is photoreceptive. Yeah, it seems like it's just splitting here to get more complicated. It arises in anterior evagination of the pineal gland. I gotta learn how to say that word. Just weird. Anyway, amongst fish, lampreys have two parietal eyes, one that developed from the parapineal gland and the other from the pineal gland. Okay, so lampreys even have it now. These are one behind the other in the center of the upper surface of the brain case. It's possible this is an original condition among vertebrates, and many may have allowed bottom-dwelling species to sense threats from above. Interesting, there's not a lot of talk about what this thing does. Okay, photoreceptive and associated, so it's just still photoreceptive. But I mean, so is your eye. It's photoreceptive. So, and I remember on snakes it being heat sensitive, not really photoreceptive. So I don't know. There's not much talk on what it's doing. It's a very short. So what is a parapineal gland? I tried to find that earlier. Gland, and they had it as one word, parapineal. Parapineal, pineal. See, it just goes back to the one I was already at, which doesn't explain anything. An ancient lizard had 4 eyes. All right. Mediates left-right symmetry. 3-eyed lizards are not uncommon. 4-eyed ones are a novelty. All right, I gotta click on it. I just can't resist. What? It just said it. It just said it. The only known ones that are so endowed with the 2 extra eyes, 4 total, are lampreys. Okay, so we're back to the lampreys business. All right, so lampreys have 2 extra 3rd eyes. They have a 3rd and a 4th eye. This is about the only info I saw on parapineal gland. You would think that they would at least have a wiki for it or something. They keep talking about it. I suspect that thing is hot off the presses. Larval zebrafish displayed distinctive left, rights. Okay, I don't think there's going to be too much exciting info in there, but keep your eye on parapineal gland. Pineal gland. Might be getting a 3rd eye. You never know. I always say it as pineal. Neal. It sounds good. I don't know. Let's see. You know, we might be able to find that on a dictionary. Pineal. Pineal. Looks like it's pineal gland. All right. Like a pine tree. Pea-sized conical mass of tissue behind the 3rd ventricle of the brain, secreting a hormone-like substance in some mammals. All right. Well, that much hasn't changed. Pineal. So it sounds like Dark Sten had it right. Pineal. Pineal. All right. So where am I? Did that one. Let me just write something down real quick here. There we go. All right. This one. Okay, anybody recognize this person? What about this person? That person? You shouldn't recognize them because those people don't exist. They are created by this computer program, and you can check it out at thispersondoesnotexist.com. And this just came up, and it was basically trying to describe how this computer program just makes fake images for like Facebook accounts and stuff like that. And so I spent some time just clicking through at these fake faces. There's a couple things I did notice. One was the backgrounds are always kind of suggestive, but not really exactly right. And also the clothing. They don't put as much work on the clothing. Look, this guy's shirt on this side is one kind of shirt, and then it doesn't make any sense over here. Also, the folding of the shirts and stuff often are not that great. Another thing to look for is that if the teeth are crooked, look at each tooth because they'll be crooked in some kind of weird way. Like one tooth will be, like even this guy, this tooth is way wider than this tooth. You just don't see that. I mean, you see crooked teeth, but you don't see one tooth being way wider than another tooth. I think the program tries to put in imperfections, but it's not good at putting imperfections in because it doesn't know how to do them. Like, it doesn't understand that teeth should all be the same size. Even if they're shuffled weird or bent weird, they would be the same width almost always. Also, if you see any imperfections, look there. That is one thing that I've noticed on this program. And another thing is look around at the clothes. A lot of times it looks kind of smeary. Look here, you've got this gold thing here, but it's not really over here. Again, what is this thing in the background? It's not quite right. It kind of looks like a tree, but then what's all these circle things? Again, here's something I see. I don't know if the other it has these weird circles like amoebas about every fourth or fifth photo. If you see one of those, be suspicious. Okay, again, what's going on with her shirt? She's got a white shirt over here and like a black shirt over here. The teeth aren't too bad on this one. But if you look, you've got a line of teeth here, and then it looks like it ends. It looks like there's a third tooth way up in there, like she has a tooth between the teeth. So, let's see, there's that weird circle thing. Again, what is this background? It's suggestive, but you can't quite make it out. All right, here's one of the imperfections, those weird circle things in an improbable location. His shirt is a little bit better job on this one, I have to say. But anyway, I just had a good time looking through this. I think it would be a good idea to get a feel for these. What's going on with these lines here? I mean, it's an earring, but it's not. You can't tell what the background is. There's something going on with her hair here. It looks like it's stained or something. What's up with that weird yellow thing on her lip? I don't know. I guess I just... what happened to this woman's eye? What is that? Scary. That's the scariest one yet. Okay, so my point is, if you can, and if you're suspicious of someone, it might be a good idea to look at the shirt here. That's not right. Blow it up and really try to see if maybe it's computer generated. And I don't know if they'll all be as easy to decipher, because at first I totally fell for these, but then I started looking at what was wrong. Okay, so this guy's got a weird brown thing in his eye. Check out his teeth. The teeth are actually not too bad on that one. Look at his shirt, though. What is this? It's flesh toned here and black over here. What is this thing? The backgrounds are really weak on this thing. That he's almost like he's got half flesh and half fabric for a body. Here's that weird circle thing again, like an amoeba. Very weird. I don't know if this might be super boring to you guys, but this one's probably the best one I've seen in a while. But what happened to her eyeball? Look, one brown and one creepy eye. Anyways, okay, I could go on this all day, but so basically they're saying that a whole bunch of images you see are probably fake humans created by that program or similar ones. So that's why I wanted to kind of show you what to look for. If you just glance at that, it looks like a human, but when you start looking at the details, there's weird things about it. Who made the program? You know, I can't remember. It was something that showed up on Reddit. But the thing is, there's millions of programs like this. This is just one. So that's why I say the tells in that one may not even be on all of them, but I suspect that the imperfections are the problem, because if the human is too perfect, it looks suspicious. So they have to put imperfections, but it doesn't understand how to do that, and you can see that they put a lot of work on the face, but the clothing in the background. So definitely, I don't know, just kind of watch people's profiles online, that kind of thing. That one with the creepy eye, that was weird. I mean, not just the white eye, but that there's humans next to each other and one was all morphed. The woman man. Yeah, that was an extra messed up one. But see, the program doesn't know when it does a bad job. Just guessing. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff like that. You just glance at it, it looks good. You got to look for the detail. My cat has an opposable thumb now. Yeah, I was talking about that with the started up as the polydactyl cats. Luminal ring on the left eye only. Yeah, it's just it's interesting. Looks gender neutral, deliberate presumably. It's a computer program. It doesn't understand gender. All right, so there's that one. This is a little ME for me. I don't know if you guys remember the sugar alcohol called malitol. In my old time, maltitol is a sugar alcohol. But in this timeline, it's maltitol. Maltitol is a sugar alcohol. There's no I used to call it malitol, but it's maltitol. And I've been told that in this timeline, there's naming conventions that would require, like in that field, that would require it to be malt. I don't know how true that is, but maltitol. And then people are like, well, you're just getting it confused with mannitol, another sugar alcohol. I'm like, no, I'm not getting it confused with mannitol. But then when I went to look up mannitol, oh, that's interesting. It's back. Mannitol. All of my, I've only ever seen it this way as manitol. Mannitol. But apparently now it's mostly is spelled with these double N's. Actually, I'm surprised to see that one at all at practo.com, because mostly it's 99.9% it's mannitol now, and the wiki still has it. So I think that other one is just residual. It's not. So it has two N's now. So there's been a bunch of changes in the sugar alcohols for me, basically. Malitol changed to maltitol, and mannitol got another N in it. Oh, see, it's still, maybe this is a different drug, this mannitol. Yeah, maybe that. Well, it says mannitol there, then it says two N's here. Huh, so that's all messed up. So I don't know, maybe that's a fresh change or something, because there's still a lot of weird residual. Okay, so that one, all right, this one is from Sabina090705 on retcons. Chickens have earlobes now. Chicken have the extra icky one. And there's a lot going on with the head, and it's easy to get confused. But basically, they have these big earlobes now. It looks. I just don't remember that part here. I remember the head and then the wattle but now they have this extra part that is the earlobe. And to me, it looks pretty weird. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. See if I can get that one to be bigger. I don't think I can. Nope. No, let me find one that has it. So in some of them there, okay, this one shows it pretty good. This one will be big. No, it did not become big. Okay, so this part right here, I just don't remember. I just remember there, like, that the ear was just hidden under the feathers, like a lot of birds still are. They didn't have they didn't have an ear, okay? I mean, they had a hole where the ear was, but they didn't have a giant fleshy ear, and they do now. Look at that right there. They have a big fleshy ear now. So this one has a white one. It just does not look right. It used to just be here. It didn't have this thing. So no, there were no ears all over my old chickens. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, if you cut up a lot of your own chicken wings, as a couple years ago, the chicken wing, even of the regular fryers in the store, has a claw on it now. My old timeline, the chicken wings did not have an actual claw. When I first saw that, it was really weird, but yet somehow I didn't think about it too much. A lot of birds in this timeline have hidden claws. Yeah, there. This is what changed. There's a claw now on the end of the wing, and this is just a regular flyer. Other birds have wing claws as well. Ducks, owls, emus, ostriches, and many other independently unrelated lineages. Okay, so anyways, that was one change. But now they have ears too. My neurophysiology professor said pineal. So I guess it's pineal now, like you're eating pie. I highly doubt CERN just because it is shut down right now, but quantum computers I'm very open to. I just saw a thing that CERN's going to make like a 10 times bigger type of, I don't know, what is it, collider. It's going to have a lot more mileage. So the regular collider is here, and then they're going to build like a much bigger one around it so that they'll have two. Supposedly it won't be done till 2055 or something, but what you want to bet that it'll get done a lot sooner than that. Okay, so let's see, where are we at? Turkey doesn't have claws on wings yet. Oh, do they? Turkey claw on wing. Let's see. Turkey claw on wing. What are turkey claws called? Oh, I don't see. I'm not seeing one, so you may well be right. Oh, let's see. Oh, it's working on it, though. Look, because the claw goes in, like, right here. I wouldn't be surprised if it got one, let's just say. All right, yeah, you could get me off track so easily. Didn't have claws. Not yet. Just give it a little time. I cleaned chicken about 2 weeks ago and there were no claws. You know, supposedly all the fryers have them, so just really look, because I notice my brain will bounce away from looking at MEs if you're not really careful. You have to really deliberately look sometimes. Okay, let's see. Got that one. Superfluids. Superfluid helium. Pretty sure that's the right one. Okay. I've talked about
Professor
this
Robert Taylor wanted to show me an experiment.
Turn that racket off. Okay, so last time we were talking about how a superfluid. No, I was talking. Spacing out. Okay, I was talking about how it was really weird because they were saying that as something became really cold and approached absolute zero, it would actually reverse and get warmer. Like if it got so cold, it got hot. And so I was like, that just sounds like crazy talk. Well, one thing that Bob Bobertson came up with was he found this thing. So they're saying that helium, as it approaches absolute zero, turns into a superfluid. So what is a superfluid? So apparently it goes from gas to like a fluid. That doesn't sound that weird. But then it becomes so fluidic that nothing can hold it. And so like a glass beaker that holds liquid, it would just leak right through because it just like goes around the holes in the molecules. Like when molecules are near each other, there's space between them. So it just, you can't contain it. It becomes like ultra fluid. And they actually show it. Well, is that the right video? That may not be the right video. Let's see. Talk. Because the video I want to see is, okay. Starts at 54. Okay, I think, is that the right video? Let me see. Nope, I don't think that's the right video. Oh, I guess it is. No, that didn't have Ryan Hart on it. This one. I think this is the correct one. Doink. All right, so it starts. I'm going to start it at 54. This is the correct video. Hopefully you can hear this. I'm going to turn up the sound. Sound there is good. All right, here we go.
Ordinarily, this container with tiny pores can hold liquid helium. But the moment the helium turns superfluid, it leaks through.
See there, it's leaking.
We call this kind of flow a superflow.
Superfluid helium can do things we might have believed impossible. It appears to defy gravity. A thin film can climb walls and escape its container. This is because a superfluid has zero viscosity. It can even produce a frictionless fountain, one that never stops flowing.
All right, so weird. Zero viscosity. Very weird business. So basically, I don't know, it's even hard to even understand that. And it doesn't appear that they do either. I've never heard of this ridiculous thing, though. But anyway, Superfluid. I just started hearing that last month or two ago. Okay, here's another one. So you're thinking, well, in nature, stuff's not going to approach absolute zero, right? So it's superfluous. It's not an important thing. But apparently, no, swarming bacteria can make a form of superfluid. Got to sneeze. Oh, it died. Okay. All right. Swarming bacteria create an impossible superfluid. So what they're saying is that if you put like a small percentage of, say, E. coli bacteria into water, and then you squish 2 plates of glass together, the E. coli will line up and all swim in the same direction such that you end up with something akin to a superfluid. It has zero friction because the little swimming bacteria somehow like make it that way. It's kind of hard to describe it, but let's see. Solutions of E. coli in water could get unnaturally slick. Sandwiching a drop between 2 small plates, they recorded the force needed to make 1 plate slide at a certain speed. So usually liquids become more viscous when they contain additional suspended particles, like water versus mud. But the opposite turns out to be true when the particles can swim. Keeping the plate moving required no force at all, indicating zero viscosity. Some trials even registered negative viscosity, so it actually moved by itself, sort of. The organisms were swimming in a way that neutralized the solution's internal friction. So apparently they all line up and like swim together and neutralize friction, which is just, why would they even do that? Anyway, it's just really weird. So I just think we're going to hear more about this funky superfluid business. You think of zero viscosity. There's things move effortlessly, and that can have a lot of usages in industry, a lot. I think we're going to see more of that. All right. Like little machines. Yep. And I mean, keeping bacteria alive is not that hard. But once that idea is planted, I think we're going to just find more and more instances of this superfluid. All right. Next one. Okay, I got that one. All right, I think I'm coming down the home stretch now. Only a couple more. This one's another one. Here we go. We'll wait until that ad is done. Okay, I've talked about this before, the ice discs, but they're getting bigger. They used to be really small. They're getting really huge. So this ice disc formed in Maine in the United States. Spinning ice disc that is roughly 100 yards wide has formed in Presumscot River near Portland, Maine. Westbrook City officials say it's believed to have formed naturally in a part of the river where the current creates a whirlpool. So this disc is spinning slowly. it takes up almost the whole river. So anyway, I just wanted to point out another instance of these ice disks. This time it's in the USA, in a really populated region instead of out in the boonies in the middle of nowhere. All right, last one. I don't know if any of you guys do off-roading, but you'll realize how weird this is if you've ever done much off-roading. This is from Bob Bobertson again. Apparently in New York, they did a race from New York to Paris. Of course, the obvious thing is, how in the heck are you going to get across the ocean? But I mean, look at these old vehicles of the time. Can you go off-roading with that kind of tire? I mean, how effective would it be in crappy roads full of mud with this kind of, you basically have, it's almost like bicycle tires on there. I mean, even the top of the line Jeeps now would, if when it gets bogged down, you still get stuck when you're in deep mud. You'll still just spin. These little bicycle tires, I don't get it. So basically they're saying that they went from New York to Paris. Here's the route. Started in New York all the way across our country. And then they were going to go, I think, up here, but then there was some kind of bad conditions. So then they went here. And so they were getting like boat rides across the difficult spots. But I mean, I just can't see. It took them 5 months. I just don't see how you could possibly get those vehicles to do that kind of. I mean, the roads back then were hideous. I mean, they were just dirt. You're going to go all the way across Russia, all the way through Europe to Paris. I mean, not even to mention going across the United States. That's just insanity. There is just no way you're going to off-road all the way. So it took them like five months, apparently. I just don't see that as happening. I mean, even now when I go off-roading, we have to bring like pieces of carpet and stuff because you get stuck. And sometimes you get stuck. I mean, there's places where we can't go at all. I don't see it. Anyway, I'm wondering maybe this is going to be part of tech before its time, where the tech will improve and make this more realistic. Right now, I just can't see it. I just can't. Anyway, there's more info on the wiki here, but that's kind of my end of my rant on that one. Let's see. Let me see if I've got everybody credited here. So Bob came up with that one. Those are all mine. Oh, the California Great Flood of 1862. That was inspired by some stuff that Bob had said about other flooding. Those are all mine. Richard Nixon called the moon. That was Bob Bobertson again. All right, yeah, I think I've got everybody credited for today. People were hardy. They'd get out and push the truck out of the mud. You wouldn't, though. I mean, it's too heavy. You have to put carpet and wood pieces down and stuff. And, you've got to think, where are they going to get gas all the way out there? I mean, there wasn't the infrastructure that we have now. You have a part, where do you buy, you have breakage. I mean, those vehicles broke down all the time. Where do you get parts? I mean, you can't just weld on the spot. You spend like, some of those regions, you're just going to spend your whole day pushing your vehicle. With all those people loaded on there, I don't see how the vehicle is even going to get far. It's going to need gas every 5 seconds. Have you looked at tech for cars and planes in the early 1900s? Seems there were V8 engines for cars in like 30s. Something I remember relatively new and coveted in the 90s. Yeah, another example of tech before its time, I'm sure. I'm just looking at the wheels on those, and I just can't see how you're going to get anywhere with those bicycle tires. Oh, you're talking about the CERN invented the internet. Yeah, in the original timeline of mine, it was private enterprise. It was a scientist guy in conjunction with the U.S. military invented the internet, the World Wide Web. But CERN did not invent the World Wide Web. It had nothing to do with it. CERN wasn't even around for me back then. CERN just kind of showed up in like the 90s, late 90s. But now it invented the World Wide Web, which is baloney. Well, in this timeline it's not, but... Anyways, so I'm about done. I've got all my stuff completed. So anybody who's in San Diego, definitely if you want to come to the meeting, we're just going to chit chat about MEs, but from our experience in the past, there is no shortage of things to talk about. Everybody's got their crazy ME stories. We also talk about local MEs that people all over the world probably wouldn't know, just like little changes in roads and things like that. But yeah, there's no shortage of things to talk about ever. So there wasn't any problem with it being awkward or anything. It was pretty cool. So anyways, anybody who's interested, you know where to email me. And I think that we're coming down the home stretch. Just about time to stop the streaming. So thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.